Hi, this is Jen with Unchained Crochet. If you haven't done it yet, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to see more items and tutorials like this. Hi there, and welcome to the first tutorial of the Wild Violets cardigan. I am using some scrap yarn as I have all 4 of my panels completed and the second tutorial is already made. This is my third go at doing the first tutorial. So I just wanted to let you all know that right off the bat. I have had some technical difficulties with my tutorial videos. So we are going to do the starting chain for this top. You will be starting with a chain of a multiple of 4 plus 1 plus 2. That plus 2 counts as your first double crochet. So you want to chain a multiple of 4, then add 3 more stitches. So I'm going to do 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let me fix my yarn. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I think I made that one. 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit. It is not where I need it, so I'm going to pause here. I have to adjust my gooseneck, sorry. I cannot wait for my new gooseneck to come. All right, so now I've adjusted it, and you can also see in the background the first row is solid double crochet. That's what we're working on right now, working toward. Want to get a good foundation, multiple of 4 plus 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I have an extra one, so I'm going to back one out. Now we are going to crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. We're going to double crochet into the back loop. That is your back loop. It's a bump on the back of your chain. That makes a nice sturdy foundation row that you can later on see. It looks just like the top when you're done. It looks like the top of the piece. You've got the V's on top, and that will enable you to make an invisible seam join between your rectangles using the mattress stitch that I will be showing you. So double crochet across your chain, all going through the back loop. Make sure that your chain doesn't get twisted and ugly. We don't like to be twisted and ugly. It's nice to be straight and pretty. Just continue across the row, going into each, sorry, I'm floating off camera again, going into each back loop. Next time I pause and come back, I'm probably going to have the camera adjusted once again. I'm just trying to find a happy medium of my distance of my mouth to the phone and the angle of the phone to my stitching, so I don't keep drifting off. I need to be able to see what I'm doing and not look at it on camera as well, because my the thing that's holding my phone, I can see the screen, but down the middle of the screen there's a bar that is part of the gooseneck that gets in my way from seeing that I'm going off camera. So I apologize for that, new gooseneck or whatever, new phone holder, freestanding one is coming tomorrow, I think. I almost skipped a back loop there. If you have trouble getting that back loop on there, just use your little fingernail or your finger and push it through there. I also split the yarn a bit on that one, but I'm going to plow on through it. I don't care. My piece is a test swatch. My garment that I have made the 4 panels for, the width that I chose is the width that will fit 1/4 of my bust line, because it's also going to have some trim around the neck and the front with ribbing attached, crocheted and attached as you go to the body. So I'm going to pause this. I will meet you at the end of your first row. Just count your double crochets, count your first turning chain, those first 2 chains count as a double crochet. So altogether you should have a multiple of 4 plus 1. I'm going to pause here. Okay, my 21 double crochets is on, counting that first 2 chains there. I've got 21, which is a multiple of 4 plus 1. I'm good to go. So we're going to start the next row. The next row is row 2. And it's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all the way across, the green here being the end of the row. The repeat being between the pink lines. So to do that, we're going to chain 3, 2 chains to count as your first double crochet, and the extra chain to skip over this first stitch right there. We're going to double crochet into the second stitch. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next. And just continue across your row like that. Chain 1, double crochet, skip a stitch. I'll meet you at the end of the row. You want to pause here. Okay, so we've made it to the end of the row, and at the end of the row, just maintain that stitch repeat across. At the end of the row, you end with a chain 1. This is the end of the row between the pink and the green. A chain 1 and a double crochet in the top of your turning chain of your previous row. So now we're going to chain 2, turn, and crochet around each chain 1 space, and crochet into each double crochet. Around the chain 1 space, into the double crochet. Double crochet around the chain 1 space, double crochet into the double crochet below. Continue like that, making a solid row again until you get to your last stitch will be in the top of that turning chain, the chain 2 of your chain 3. Right there. I'm going to pause and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, I am at the end of this row. I want you to see, do not skip going around your chain 1 space right here. Go around that chain 1 space, do double crochet, and don't forget to double crochet into the second chain of that turning chain from the row below. That maintains your straight edge right there. Okay, now we're going to chain 3, 2 for the double crochet and the extra chain for the chain 1 space. We're going to turn our work, skip the first double crochet. We're going to do our puff stitches now. This sign right here is a puff stitch. So we've done the double crochet, we've done the chain 1. We're doing a 4 wrap puff stitch, and that's done like so. Wrap your hook, go into the second stitch. It should be right above your double crochet from 2 rows back. So wrap your hook, we're going to go into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop one more time. Now we're going to yarn over and pull, I'm sorry, I got off camera. You'll see it on the next stitch. Pull through all the loops on the hook and chain one. That makes your chain one space. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to puff stitch again right above this double crochet right here. We're going to puff stitch right above that one. Wrap your hook, go into that stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through a loop. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. Chain one to close it, and that also counts as your chain one space. Let's do that again one more time. Yarn over, go through this, skip a stitch, go through the next stitch right above that double crochet 2 rows down. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull through all loops on the hook and chain one for your chain one space. Now we're going to go above the next double crochet 2 rows below. We're skipping the next stitch, we're going into the next one. Yarn over, insert into your stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through. Oh, looky there. Let me do that again. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop. One more time, yarn over, pull through a loop. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all loops on the hook. Chain one. I want you to continue on doing that process. The puff stitch and close it with the chain one, skip a stitch, go into the next stitch that's right above the double crochet 2 rows below. I'm going to pause this and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, I just did my last puff stitch. And now that we're at the end, we're going to do our chain one just like we have been doing to close that puff stitch and count as your chain one space. Now we're going to skip this stitch here, and I'm going to double crochet at the edge so that it matches the other edge into the top of that turning chain below. Just don't forget your chain one between your puff stitches, and you have a double crochet at each edge, here and here. So I'm going to chain 2, and we're going to turn. And our first stitch, we're going to do a solid row. Now we're on row 5. A solid row of double crochets right here. And to start that, you want to go around your first chain one space you come to, which is between your puff stitch and your starting chain here. I got the dropsies bad today. I'm sorry, guys. So our first double crochet is made in that first chain one space. Then you're going to double in the top of each puff stitch. Now I'm going to double around the chain one space between the puff stitches. Just put your hook between the 2 puffs. Double crochet into the top of that puff stitch. Do 1 in between the puff stitches. 1 into the top of the puff stitch. In between the puff stitches. And then the top of each puff stitch. I'm going to pause here. I'll meet you at the end of the row. Okay, I have reached the end of the row, and I went between the starting chain and the last puff stitch made below and did a double crochet for that chain one space. Now I'm going to double crochet in the second chain of that beginning turning chain of the last row. Now, I'm going to stop here for a second and explain something. If you are the type of person who maybe you skip a stitch once in a while or you add a stitch once in a while, I highly recommend that you count your stitches every solid row, just to be sure you're still on target. Okay, count the solid rows and be sure you still have your multiple of 4 plus 1, and that you haven't lost 4 stitches along the way. By then it would start shrinking, or if it looks like it's bowing out really bad and it's not because of this shell row that we're doing next, then you just want to be sure, find the place where you messed up and go back to that spot, fix your problem with your stitch count, and then crochet on. So I'm going to show you how to do the next row. First I want to explain it. You're going to chain 1 and just be ready to turn and stitch again. Okay, we did our puff stitch at a solid row. This is the puff stitch row, this is our solid row. The next row is single crochet, no stitch. You're skipping a stitch. You're going to 5 double 2 rows above the puff stitch. So in the stitch that's above the puff stitch is where you're planting your 5 double crochet shell stitch. Then you're going to skip a stitch. You're not chaining or anything where these X's are. Let's just skip a stitch. You're going to go straight from single crochet, shell, single crochet, shell. Okay, it's going to be over and over again. This is the repeat from this pink line to this last green line. That's your repeat till you get to the end. And at the end, you're going to do this. You're going to end with the single crochet so it matches this other side. Okay, so let's get into that. We've chained 1. Now, to do this single crochet, you want to do it right above your first double crochet. Right here in the end. Right there. Single crochet there. Oop. Now, we want to skip a stitch. I'm going to skip this one right here, and I'm going to 5 double into the next stitch. You should be right above your puff stitch below. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to skip a stitch. I'm going to single crochet right above the next puff stitch. I'm going to skip a stitch. I'm going to 5 double in above the next puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip a stitch, single crochet above the next puff stitch. Skip a stitch, 5 double above the next puff stitch. You can pause this video anytime you need to pause and come back to it. I'm going to keep going with you across this full row. We're on 4 double. We need 1 more double crochet in there. Skip a stitch, single crochet into the next stitch above the next puff stitch. Your shells and your single crochets should be lining up with each puff stitch. We're going to skip a stitch, we're going to 5 double above the next puff stitch. Skip a stitch, single crochet above the next puff stitch. Skip a stitch, 5 double above the next puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to skip a stitch. There's a stitch there and then our turning chain. We're going to skip that stitch and we're going to double crochet into the top of the turning chain of the previous row. Actually, sorry, we're not going to double crochet. We're going to single crochet into the top of that turning chain below. So skip a stitch, single crochet in the top of the turning chain. Now I'm going to pull up a loop here so we can have a little talk. All right. lay your piece down. At this point, you will realize that, let me get a plain white background here. At this point, when you lay your piece down, you'll realize you have a little bit of flare to it. That's okay. When it is blocked out or washed, it will all straighten out, and this next row is going to help straighten it out as well. But that does straighten out with blocking and washing. I like to steam my pieces. So the 4 that I already made in the Wild Violets colorway of the Ferris wheel, I have steam ironed those, and the drape is just gorgeous. Another note, as you keep going with this and trying to determine which solid row to stop your rectangle on, because you're doing 4 rectangles, how long you want your piece. Something to consider if you're going to steam iron it, as I do, to kill the acrylic and help the drape. It opens up the lace very nicely. If you're going to steam it, just know, on mine, I gained 7 inches in length. So it is a good idea to do your first rectangle totally completely. Do it the width of 1/4 or so of your bust, or however wide you want it to be. You can make it a big boxy cardi if you want. I did 61 single crochet or double crochets for my foundation, my first row of my 4 rectangles that I'm sewing together. I did 61 stitches. So just keep in mind that you're gonna gain some length to your piece once it's steam blocked or washed. Okay, so this next row that we're doing, I want to explain this row. This next row is as well a 4-stitch repeat. Okay, so the repeat is from there to there, from the pink to the green. This one and this one both have that 4-stitch repeat, as opposed to the 2-stitch repeat of the others. So this next row, I call it the compensating row. The dot here is a single crochet. We did the single crochet dots here on this row. We're doing a single crochet into the 3rd double crochet of the 5 double crochet shell below. So plant your single crochet right in the middle of that shell below. And this is a double crochet and a chain 1. All right, so your repeat is chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the shell, chain 1, double crochet into the single crochet below. All right, so let's go ahead and start this row. We are going to start with chain 2 for our double and add another chain for your first chain 1 space. So chain 3 and turn. One, 2, 3, turn. Now we're going to single crochet into the middle of your shell, into that 3rd double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the single crochet between the shells, chain 1, single crochet into the top of the shell, chain 1, double crochet into your single crochet between the shells, chain 1, single crochet into the 3rd double crochet of the shell, chain 1, double crochet into the single crochet between the shells, chain 1, single crochet into the 3rd double crochet of your shell, chain 1, single or double crochet into the single crochet between the shells, chain 1, single crochet into the 3rd double crochet of the shell, chain 1. Now we've reached the end. We did our chain 1 right here. The blanks are chain 1 spaces, and now we need to double crochet into the single crochet at the end of the row. So find your single crochet and double crochet into that. Okay, so that's the end of that row. Now we're going to turn, and we are on row 8, which is a solid row. We're back to doing a solid row. Solid row of double crochets. So we're going to chain 2 and turn. We're going to double crochet around each chain 1 space and double crochet into every stitch, whether it's single or double. Double crochet around the chain 1 space, double crochet into the double crochet. Let me move this out of the way a little bit. Double crochet around the chain 1 space, double crochet into the single crochet, double crochet in around the chain 1 space, double crochet into the double crochet. Continue on around all your chain 1 spaces and into each stitch from the row below. And I will pause this and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so at the end of your row, be sure, after double crocheting into the top of the single crochet where you single crocheted into the top of the shell, you've double crocheted into that single crochet. Now you need to double around your chain 1 space. And you need to double into the second chain of your turning chain to maintain your stitch count. If you need to, go ahead and stop, pull up a loop, and count your stitches across. You should still have a multiple of 4 plus 1. That's our magic number, 4, multiple of 4 plus 1. Now, that was row 8. We are going to do row 9. Row 9 is simply a repeat of row 4 here with the theta sign. The theta are puff stitches. There's a key at the top of this chart that I made that tells you what each one is. And I will post this to my Facebook group and link it in the description below. I was planning to post it to Instagram, but they have a funny little thing with like boxes and a grid. I think it would be harder for people to download and print it. So you should be able to download the photo of this and print it as needed. So this is just a simple stitch repeat, doing simple rectangles to make a cardigan. That's all, guys. It's just a simple garment, and the lace is gorgeous, I gotta tell you. I will show you the piece again just for inspiration and fuel on your Crojo. Need some fuel for the Crojo fire. So now we're back to a double crochet and a chain 1 at this turn. Just read it left to right, whether you're right or left-handed. Read it like you read, okay? Because it's mirror image. It doesn't matter which way you read it from. But I set it up to be read left to right with the repeats, okay? So we're going to chain 2 and chain 1 to begin with. So chain 3 and turn. Skip the next stitch right there. And you're going to, above the shell, the peak of the shell, we're going to do our puff stitch. You're going to wrap your hook. You're going to go into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. That makes 4 wraps. That is a 4 wrap puff stitch because I wrapped it before I even went in the stitch. Then yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook, chain 1 to close it. That counts as your chain 1 space. Now you're going to go above that double crochet right here on the compensating row below. You're going to skip a stitch. You're going to do another puff stitch right above the double crochet below. 1, 2, 3. I wrapped it and didn't count the first wrap, but chain 1 to close it, skip a stitch, do another puff stitch right above that shell. 1, 2, 3. Close it with a chain 1. Do another puff stitch right above the double crochet below, right down there. So continue along doing all your puff stitches just like row 4, closing them with a chain 1 until you get near the end, and I'll meet you at the end. Now we're at the end. I just did my puff stitch. I'm going to chain 1 to close it, That counts as my chain 1 space. We're going to skip this stitch here, and we're going into the top of the turning chain right there. We're going to double crochet. Now, I'm going to pull up a loop. We'll have a little talk. That was row 9. We just completed row 9 with the puff stitch row. After row 9, you're going to rinse and repeat. You're going to start again with row 1 and work all through every row. Be sure you don't miss your compensating row, and be sure that you do single crochets on those 2 rows. Row 6 and row 7 get single crochets. So just rinse and repeat until your piece is nearly as long as you want it. Keep an account that it will grow some vertically, a little bit horizontally, but more this way. You're going to get some growth with your seam blocking, and it is going to blossom on you and open up your lace. I would steam block. I highly recommend steam blocking this yarn. It really just, the drape is just tremendous. It's awesome. Let me grab the other piece and I'll show you real quick. You'll see it in tutorial number 2 as well. Hold on just a minute. I'm going to pause. So this sample I just made with you, I'm going to do one more solid row right here, and then I'm going to have myself a coaster. This is just a different colorway. I don't remember the name of it, of the Lionbrand Ferris wheel. It's the same brand of yarn, same type of yarn. And they do recommend an H-hook, but look at this here. Look at that drape. And it just makes it, you know, I wouldn't say light as a feather like lace weight, but that drape is just, it's gorgeous here. It's just a beautiful stitch and beautiful drape on this. I really enjoy their yarn. Again, make yourself 4 panels. Mine, I believe I measured, and it was 17 or 18 inches across. And I'm also going to be, and I'll take you along for the ride, but we'll be adding a crochet on as you go ribbing. We'll just be attaching it as we go. Attaching it to the sides and up around the neck and down the other side of the front. That way, doing the ribbing this direction, it will cause your color changes to be more gradual as opposed to going around stitching it on in rows like that, like picking up stitches and stitching across this way. We're going to stitch it this way so that we'll have nice gradual, and it'll be even more of a gradual color change than this here. You'll have kind of blocks of blended colors. So it's going to be so gorgeous. I can't wait. Yay, you made it to the end of the stitch repeat tutorial. And now that you're flying, just recognize that my recommendation, because of how we're going to sew, we're going to use the mattress stitch in the next video. We're going to sew up your shoulder seams using a solid row. We're going to put solid row to solid row